This is Marcus Patman here, uh, Venture Wave Consultant. I wanted to, it's been a while since I posted a video. I've been doing a lot of work around Ansible for a while, and I wanted to post one of my latest projects where I was tasked to help a client install a client. In this case, we're installing a Percona client. I used this particular code to install the client um, on about 50 instances, and it worked very well. And I incorporated some of the more advanced features of Ansible playbooks within this, and I thought it'd be neat to actually show a video of how this all works and what I've used. So the features we're gonna cover here is variables, encrypted strings, vault ID directives, tags, the become variable, the become directive to become root, the shell and yum modules, and inventory ranges, and using local Ansible config files. So to start, we'll go up to the top of the play here. It starts as any Ansible play. You have 3 dashes for a YAML file. We have a name that tells us what the play is going to do. And here I specify the host, which is pm agent install. The hosts are actually specified here in an local inventory file under a group pmm agent install. So by saying this right here, it will install all hosts that are under here. So like if I had another group here that was like regular, and I have host 15 through 20, it would not install to these hosts, only to these hosts. And this is also a short way you can do ranges. So in this case, it's going to go from host 1 through 5 and 6 through 10. So this is just when you take your host name and then like you want to put a range of whether it's letters or numbers, you can do in brackets 6, start of range, colon, end of range, which, is, we talk about inventory ranges here. So when I run this program, here's the run syntax that we're going to run down here. We're doing Ansible playbook, the Percona client YAML. So I don't have to specify a -i in inventory file. I have a local Ansible config file that's doing just that right here. So instead of actually having to specify a inventory file, Ansible will look for a local config file, and in that config file, any directives. In this case, I've directed it to use this inventory file, which is right here. So let's get into the play here. The remote user, we're doing Ansible. This is the user that the Ansible process will log in. Become true, you have to be root to install things on Linux, so we're saying become equals true. The become method and become user, sudo, and root. And actually, I kind of posted these on from an older playbook, but I don't really think we need these with the current versions of Ansible. So I'll just go ahead and take those out of there. Could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure, because a lot of the modules I've written lately, I've just been using become true, and it works great. But I do have some older code here that I've written with older Ansible modules. So then we get to our vars, the variables that we're going to be using. The first variable is encrypted string, which I'm using pmm user password. And what this allows you to do is encrypt an actual string. In this case is the password. So like when I get down here to, and actually I have a couple other variables I need to add. I need to add pmm server IP, which I'll go ahead and do here. Server IP, localhost. And then there was another variable that I needed to add here, which is pmm user ID, which is pm user. So in addition to the password variable, it's also going, I'm also specifying the actual server, the Percona server, which I don't have an actual Percona server on this particular machine, so I'm just putting localhost there for demonstration purposes. And then the user ID is PMM user, which we will see these used down here. So um, once we get the variable set, we move on to tasks. And the first thing I want to do is I'm using the yum module to remove any clients that are already installed. The yum module requires a name and a state. In this case, I'm giving it the name of the package as PMM client, state absent. I'm also tagging this install. The next we're going to do is we're going to install the PMM repo. Once again, using the yum module. Name, I'm giving it the actual URL of the repo and the state of present. Hence, I want it installed. Giving it a tag of install, which I will be talking about tags here in a moment. The next task is I need to enable the Percona repository. In this case, I'm going to use the shell module and run a shell command. The shell command I'm going to run is Percona release enable ps80 release, which enables the ps80 release of Percona repo, and I'm going to tag it install. The next task I'm going to run is installing PMM client. We're going to once again use the yum module. We're installing the PMM client package, and the state we want is latest and greatest. So once again, I'm tagging this as install. Once the client is ran, this is where we get into using the variables I just added up here. I need to run a shell command to configure the client. So the shell command we're running is pmm admin config. We're giving a server tag where the variable we're going to use the server IP, which I've set up to localhost up there. I'm using a self-signed certificate on the PM Percona server, so for SSL connections, I need to directive it server and secure SSL. I'm passing the give a server user flag, which is I'm passing the variable PMM user ID, and the server password I'm passing that encrypted variable PMM user password, which all these variables we have up here. The next thing I need to do, I need to run another shell command for Linux metrics. If it's a Linux server, I just need to run Linux metrics, so I need to run pmm admin add Linux metrics. I'm tagging this as Linux. If it's a MySQL server, we need to add the MySQL metrics. I'm tagging that as MySQL, once again running the shell module. I need to have a couple of directives here for Linux. The Linux metrics service, it operates on port 42,000, so I need to add, we run IP tables where I work, so I need to add a IP tables rule to allow for port 42,000, or if it's a MySQL, which I tag Linux, if it's a MySQL box, I need to open up port 42002. It pretty much does IP tables, input chain, position 5, TCP protocol, the source destination, which is the Percona server IP, destination port of which I want to open, and then what it does. In this case, I want it to accept the packets, and then I have this double ampersand here, which basically says if this command is successful, then run this command, and I want to actually run an IP table save to actually save the changes, so that if the server is ever rebooted, IP table, the changes are retained. And then finally, we're going to start the PMM client for the Linux side if it's Linux, or MySQL if it's MySQL, or both. If I'm running a Linux machine that has MySQL, then I'm going to enable both of these metrics. And that's where the tags come down for use, which I'm going to show you right now. So the command I'm going to be running is Ansible Playbook, Percona client, install YAML. To be able to unencrypt this encrypted string, I'm going to specify a vault ID at prompt, which will prompt me for the password for this particular encrypted string. And that will decrypt the password in this variable so that when I go to configure the PMM client, it passes the variable as unencrypted, which will then allow the this client to log into the Percona server. And then finally, I'm going to tell it which tasks it needs to run. So the tags, I have install, Linux, and MySQL. So if I just wanted to run, if it's just a Linux box with no SQL, I'm going to run tags install Linux, and that's it. And that will run everything except for the tasks that are tagged MySQL. But say it's a MySQL box too running on Linux, then I want to add the MySQL tag. In this case, it will run all the tags. There's also other things you can do. You can specify run a task with tags, without tags, as well. But so in this case, for sake of demonstration, I'm going to include everything. Now, I don't have a Percona server to connect, and I also don't have any of these hosts that are actually real. So this is going to be like a 100% live demo, but I'm going to go ahead and run the playbook just to kind of show you how you're prompted to enter in a password and that sort of thing. So once again, we're running as Ansible playbook, Percona client. We're giving it we're telling it there's vaulted information within the playbook and prompt us for a password, and then I'm telling it to run everything that's tagged with install Linux and MySQL. So here we go. Boom. First thing it's going to ask me for a password, which I will type in the vault password. And then it's going to go out and gather facts. And when it's gathering facts, it's pretty much gathering information for every host that's in the inventory. These hosts aren't real, so this is going to fail. And we won't actually gather any facts. As you can see, it says failure to connect with host 222, blah, blah, blah. If the host had actually been real, then it would continue on and execute all these tasks. But I hope you enjoyed this demonstration. Maybe next time I'll have a little more prep work and get some live hosts running. But I just wanted to, once again, we demonstrate the features we use, which are variables, encrypted strings, vault ID directives, tags, the become, so you can become root. Showed you how to do the shell and yum modules, demonstrated inventory ranges with within the brackets, like in this case 15 to 20, and also how to use a local Ansible config file to specify inventory directives, so you don't have to do a -i every time you run a playbook. I hope you found this information helpful. Feel free to like this video. And in the comments, I've also posted a link to the GitHub repo if you'd like to actually look at the code. All right, take care.